No one dared to approach the alien queen, except this human boy. As the Deltan invasion force swept across Earth, their leader, Queen Odin, stood as a beacon of terror and awe. Her beauty was matched only by her ruthlessness, and rumors of her deadly touch spread like wildfire among the conquered populace. Earth's governments fell one by one, bowing to the overwhelming might of the Deltan race. The aliens' declaration of intent to assimilate humanity echoed through the streets of every city, town, and village. As hope dwindled, a resistance movement formed in the shadows, determined to combat the extraterrestrial threat. In a small Midwestern town, 17-year-old Jason Henry lived a life far removed from the global upheaval. His days were filled with exploration and adventure, often venturing into abandoned buildings on the outskirts of his hometown. Little did he know that his carefree curiosity would soon thrust him into the heart of the conflict. One fateful day, Jason's wanderings led him to stumble upon a secret Deltan base. Hidden within the crumbling walls of an old factory, the alien stronghold buzzed with activity. Jason's heart raced as he observed the strange beings and their advanced technology, his mind struggling to process the reality of the situation. As he crouched in the shadows, a commotion outside drew his attention. A Deltan military parade marched through the streets, their synchronized movements a display of power and control. At the center of it all was Queen Odin herself, her presence commanding and undeniable. Jason's breath caught in his throat as he laid eyes on the alien ruler. Her otherworldly beauty was even more striking up close, her features a perfect blend of the familiar and the exotic. But beneath her fierce exterior, Jason noticed something unexpected, a flicker of vulnerability, a hint of something almost human. While others cowered in fear, Jason felt an inexplicable pull towards the queen. His lack of self-preservation instinct overrode any sense of danger, and before he could second-guess himself, he stepped out from his hiding place and approached the procession. Gasps and cries of alarm rippled through the crowd. Onlookers pleaded with Jason to turn back, their voices filled with terror. Deltan guards bristled, their weapons raised and pointed at the audacious human. But Jason pressed on, his eyes locked on Queen Odin. As he drew closer, the queen's gaze fell upon him. The world seemed to hold its breath, waiting for her to order his immediate execution. But to everyone's astonishment, including Jason's, she did not. Instead, a look of intrigue crossed her alien features. With a gesture, Queen Odin silenced her guards and demanded that Jason be brought to her private chambers for questioning. Rough hands seized him, and he found himself being escorted into the massive Deltan stronghold that dominated the city skyline. Inside, Jason was subjected to a battery of alien scanning technologies and decontamination procedures. The advanced equipment hummed and pulsed around him, analyzing every cell of his being. Finally deemed safe, he was led through winding corridors to Queen Odin's opulent quarters. The alien ruler awaited him, now in a more relaxed state, but no less intimidating. As she began her interrogation, probing Jason about his motives and apparent fearlessness, neither of them realized the far-reaching consequences of this encounter. Unbeknownst to Jason, his interaction with Queen Odin was being closely monitored. Human resistance forces and rival Deltan factions observed with keen interest, each seeing potential strategic value in this unexpected connection between a human boy and the alien ruler. As word of Jason's audience with Queen Odin spread, he unwittingly became a symbol, a beacon of hope for some humans, and a threat to those Deltans who opposed any form of cooperation with the conquered species. In that moment, as Jason stood before the most powerful being on Earth, the fate of two worlds hung in the balance, all because one human boy dared to approach the alien queen. As Jason stood before Queen Odin in her opulent chambers, the air thick with tension, he noticed a shift in her demeanor. The fierce, intimidating ruler he had first approached now regarded him with unmistakable curiosity. "You intrigue me, human," Queen Odin said, her voice a melodic blend of authority and wonder. "I wish to understand more about your species." With a wave of her hand, she summoned a team of Deltan scientists. They surrounded Jason, their alien eyes scanning him with a mixture of fascination and revulsion. Dr. Zandra, a tall, willowy Deltan with iridescent skin, stepped forward. Your Majesty, we are prepared to conduct a thorough examination of the human specimen, she announced, her gaze fixed on Jason. Queen Odin nodded her approval. Proceed, but ensure no harm comes to him. I want him cognizant and able to answer questions. Jason's heart raced as he was led to an adjacent laboratory. The room hummed with advanced technology, machines pulsing with an otherworldly energy. He was instructed to lie on a metallic examination table, its surface cool against his skin. Dr. Zandra's long, slender fingers danced over a holographic interface, activating a series of scanning beams that washed over Jason's body. He felt a tingling sensation as the Deltan technology probed every cell of his being. Fascinating, Dr. Zandra murmured, her eyes widening as she analyzed the data. Your Majesty, the human's genetic structure is remarkably different from our own. Their reproductive system, in particular, is quite primitive. Queen Odin leaned in, her ethereal features contorting with interest. Explain. As Dr. Zandra delved into the intricacies of human biology, Jason found himself blushing. The clinical discussion of human reproduction felt oddly invasive, yet he remained calm, answering questions when prompted. And how do humans select mates? Queen Odin asked, her piercing gaze fixed on Jason. He cleared his throat, acutely aware of the alien eyes studying his every reaction. Well, we have this thing called dating. Two people who like each other spend time together, get to know each other better. And then, the Queen pressed. Jason's face flushed deeper. If they develop strong feelings, they might become a couple. Eventually, they might decide to, mate. Queen Odin's expression flickered between fascination and disgust. And the physical act of mating? How does it differ from our methods? As Jason stumbled through a basic explanation of human intimacy, he noticed Dr. Zandra's antennae twitching with interest. The Deltan scientists seemed both repulsed and captivated by the concept of physical contact between mates. Your Majesty, Dr. Zandra interjected, I believe further research into human mating habits could prove invaluable to our long-term plans on Earth. With your permission, I would like to conduct a more extensive study. Queen Odin considered the request, her otherworldly eyes narrowing. Granted, the human will assist you in this endeavor. As Jason was escorted from the laboratory, he couldn't help but notice the whispers and sidelong glances from the Deltan court. His continued presence was clearly causing a stir among the alien hierarchy. In a dimly lit corridor, Jason overheard a heated exchange between Queen Odin and the imposing Deltan male. This human's presence is a threat to our superiority, the male hissed, his voice tinged with venom. He should be terminated immediately. You overstep your bounds, General Zarkon, Queen Odin replied, her tone icy. The human stays. My word is final. As days passed, Jason found himself spending more time with Dr. Zandra, answering her endless questions about human courtship and intimacy. The Deltan scientist's initial revulsion seemed to be giving way to a grudging fascination. This practice you call kissing, Dr. Zandra said, her antennae quivering with curiosity. It serves no biological function, yet humans consider it pleasurable? Jason nodded, feeling a pang of homesickness as he thought of the simple human gestures of affection he had taken for granted. Meanwhile, Queen Odin's behavior toward Jason was evolving. Her icy demeanor thawed, replaced by an almost friendly curiosity. She began to ask him about his life on Earth, his family, his hopes and dreams. Tell me, Jason, she said one evening, her voice uncharacteristically soft. What do humans value most in life? As Jason pondered his answer, he realized the weight of his position. He was no longer just a curious boy who had stumbled into an alien stronghold. He had become a bridge between two worlds, a cultural ambassador in the most unlikely of circumstances. Unbeknownst to Jason, his prolonged stay with the Deltans had not gone unnoticed by the human resistance. In a hidden bunker miles away, Colonel Marcus Steele pored over intelligence reports, his weathered face creased with concentration. We need to make contact with the boy, he declared to his team. He could be our key to understanding and potentially influencing the Deltan leadership. As plans were set in motion to reach Jason, his absence was causing ripples in his hometown. His best friend, Mike, had taken to exploring the abandoned buildings on the outskirts of town, retracing Jason's last known steps. As Mike pushed open the rusted door of an old factory, his eyes widened in shock. The interior hummed with alien technology, unmistakably Deltan in origin. He had unknowingly stumbled upon the very base Jason had discovered. Back in the Deltan stronghold, Jason found himself at the center of a cultural exchange that was rapidly expanding beyond his control. As Queen Odin's interest in human customs grew, so did the tensions within the Deltan hierarchy. The stage was set for a collision of worlds, with Jason standing at the epicenter of a storm that threatened to reshape the future of both human and Deltan civilizations. As Jason grappled with his role as a cultural bridge between humans and Deltans, Dr. Zandra's research took an unexpected turn. The alien scientist, her antennae twitching with excitement, approached Queen Odin with a bold proposal. "Your Majesty," Dr. Zandra began, her iridescent skin shimmering in the dim light of the Queen's chambers, "I believe we have reached a critical juncture in our study of human mating practices. To truly understand their pair bonding, we must observe it in action." Queen Odin's otherworldly eyes narrowed, a mixture of intrigue and skepticism crossing her features. "Elaborate, Doctor." Dr. Zandra's fingers danced over her holographic interface, projecting a series of complex diagrams and charts. "I propose a controlled experiment. We introduce a suitable human female and observe their courtship rituals firsthand." The Queen considered the proposal, her gaze flickering to Jason, who stood nearby, his heart racing at the implications of Dr. Zandra's words. "Very well," Queen Odin declared, silencing the immediate protest from General Zarkon with a sharp gesture. "Proceed with your experiment, Doctor. I wish to see these human rituals for myself." Within days, the Deltan stronghold buzzed with activity as preparations for the experiment began. Jason found himself both anxious and oddly hopeful, the prospect of interacting with another human after weeks of isolation, both thrilling and terrifying. Meanwhile, in a hidden resistance outpost, Sarah Thompson ran her fingers through her tangled hair, exhaustion etched on her face. The young woman had been working tirelessly, coordinating supply runs and gathering intelligence on Deltan movements. "Sarah!" a gruff voice called. She turned to see Colonel Marcus Steele, his weathered face creased with concern. "We've received a communication from the Deltans. They're requesting a diplomatic exchange." Sarah's eyes widened. "What kind of exchange?" "They want you," Steele replied, his tone grim. "In return, they're offering valuable intel on their defenses." After heated debate among the resistance leadership, Sarah agreed to the exchange, her heart pounding with a mixture of fear and dedication as she was escorted to the Deltan stronghold. As Sarah was led through the winding corridors of the alien structure, Jason waited nervously in a specially prepared observation room. Dr. Zandra hovered nearby, adjusting various monitoring devices. The door slid open, and Jason's breath caught in his throat. Sarah stood before him, her familiar face a beacon of humanity in the alien environment. "Jason!" Sarah gasped, her eyes widening in recognition. Before either could react further, Dr. Zandra's voice crackled over the intercom. "Subjects, please proceed with your typical greeting rituals." Jason and Sarah exchanged bewildered glances, the absurdity of the situation momentarily overwhelming them. Then, as if a dam had broken, they rushed towards each other, embracing tightly. Dr. Zandra's antennae quivered with excitement as she furiously recorded data. Queen Odin, observing from a private chamber, leaned forward, her eyes fixed on the display of human affection. Over the following days, Jason and Sarah were subjected to a series of carefully crafted scenarios designed to elicit courtship behaviors. They shared meals in a simulated Earth restaurant, complete with holographic waitstaff. They were placed in a mock dangerous situation, allowing the Deltans to observe protective instincts. Throughout it all, Queen Odin watched with growing fascination. She found herself drawn to the observation chamber with increasing frequency, her duties as ruler taking a back seat to her newfound obsession with human interaction. As Jason and Sarah navigated the bizarre circumstances of their reunion, they found comfort in each other's presence. They whispered hurried conversations when they thought the Deltans weren't listening, sharing information about the resistance and their experiences since the invasion. One evening, as they sat in a simulated moonlit garden, the stress and emotion of their situation finally overwhelmed them. Sarah turned to Jason, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "I thought I'd never see you again," she whispered. Jason reached out, gently cupping her face in his hand. "I'm here now," he murmured. Their lips met in a passionate kiss, years of unspoken feelings pouring out in a single electric moment. In the observation room, chaos erupted. Dr. Zandra's equipment blared with alerts as it registered spikes in heart rate, pheromone production, and neural activity. The Deltan scientists scrambled to record every detail of the intimate display. Queen Odin stood transfixed, her hand pressed against the viewing screen. The sight of the kiss sent a shockwave through her alien nervous system, eliciting feelings she had never experienced before. "Fascinating," she breathed, her voice barely audible. As Jason and Sarah broke apart, breathless and flushed, they suddenly remembered their audience. They turned to see dozens of wide-eyed Deltans staring at them in a mixture of shock, disgust, and undeniable curiosity. Dr. Zandra's voice crackled over the intercom, barely containing her excitement. "Subjects, please repeat the physical contact you just demonstrated. We must gather more data on this kissing." Jason and Sarah exchanged glances, a silent understanding passing between them. They were no longer just subjects in an alien experiment. They had become unwitting ambassadors for humanity, their every action shaping the Deltans' understanding of human relationships. As they leaned in for another kiss, neither Jason nor Sarah noticed the growing rift among the Deltan observers. General Zarkon stormed out of the room, his face contorted with disgust and rage. Queen Odin remained, her eyes never leaving the human couple, a strange longing building within her alien heart. Outside the Deltan stronghold, Colonel Steele and his team of resistance fighters moved silently through the shadows, guided by intelligence from Mike's discovery of the hidden base. They were unaware of the complex web of emotions and politics they were about to disrupt, focused solely on their mission to extract Jason and Sarah. As alarms began to blare throughout the compound, Jason and Sarah broke apart. Their moment of intimacy shattered. They looked at each other, the weight of their precarious position suddenly all too real. The stage was set for a confrontation that would challenge the very foundations of human Deltan relations, with Jason and Sarah caught in the crossfire of two worlds colliding. The air crackled with tension as Jason and Sarah's lips parted. The Deltan observers remained transfixed, their alien features a mix of fascination and revulsion. Queen Odin's eyes never left the human couple, her fingers pressed against the viewing screen. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the compound. Red lights flashed, bathing the observation room in an eerie glow. Jason and Sarah exchanged startled glances as chaos erupted around them. "Intruder alert! Security breach in sectors 3 and 7. A robotic voice echoed through the corridors. Dr. Zandra's antennae twitched violently as she barked orders to her subordinates. "Secure the subjects! We cannot lose our research specimens!" As Deltan guards rushed towards them, Jason grabbed Sarah's hand. "This way!" he shouted, pulling her towards a maintenance hatch he'd noticed during his time as a captive. They sprinted through the labyrinthine corridors of the Deltan stronghold, the sounds of pursuit growing fainter as they navigated the less-traveled maintenance tunnels. Jason's heart pounded in his chest, adrenaline coursing through his veins. "Jason, look!" Sarah pointed to a sign on the wall, the alien script barely legible in the dim emergency lighting. "I think that says, laboratory." They skidded to a halt in front of a massive door. Jason's fingers flew over the keypad, inputting the access code he'd memorized from watching Dr. Zandra. With a hiss, the door slid open, revealing a cavernous space filled with blinking consoles and strange, pulsating specimens in containment units. "This must be Dr. Zandra's private lab," Jason whispered, his eyes wide as he took in the wealth of alien technology surrounding them. Sarah moved quickly to a central console, her fingers dancing across the holographic interface. "Jason, this is incredible. It's all their research on human biology and mating practices." Jason joined her, scanning the data scrolling across the screen. His face flushed as he realized the extent of the Deltan's observations. "We can't leave this behind. The Resistance needs to see this." Without hesitation, Sarah pulled a small device from her pocket, a gift from Colonel Steele, and began downloading the research data. The progress bar crawled forward agonizingly slowly as distant explosions rocked the facility. Come on, Sarah muttered, her eyes darting between the download and the lab entrance. Just as the transfer completed, the lab door burst open. Queen Odin stood in the threshold, her otherworldly eyes blazing with an intensity that made Jason's breath catch in his throat. Behind her, a phalanx of Deltan guards raised their weapons. You disappoint me, Jason. Queen Odin's voice was cold, yet tinged with something Jason couldn't quite identify. I expected better from you. Jason stepped forward, placing himself between Sarah and the Deltan forces. Your Majesty, please. This doesn't have to end in violence. Queen Odin's gaze softened almost imperceptibly. No, it doesn't. Come back with me, both of you. We have so much more to learn from each other. Before Jason could respond, a series of explosions rocked the corridor behind the Deltan contingent. Human voices shouted orders, followed by the distinctive sound of earth weapons fire. In the confusion, Jason locked eyes with Sarah. A silent understanding passed between them. Sarah clutched the data device to her chest and nodded. Now, Jason yelled. They lunged forward, using the element of surprise to their advantage. Jason barreled into Queen Odin, knocking her off balance. Sarah ducked under the arm of a startled guard, racing towards the sounds of human voices. As Jason grappled with the queen, he saw Sarah disappear around a corner. Relief flooded through him, knowing she had a chance to escape with the vital information. Suddenly, a massive explosion shook the entire facility. The ceiling above them groaned ominously. Without thinking, Jason wrapped his arms around Queen Odin, shielding her as chunks of debris rained down. When the dust settled, Jason found himself in a small pocket of space, cut off from both the human and Deltan forces. Queen Odin lay beneath him, her alien eyes wide with shock and something else. You protected me, she whispered, her voice filled with confusion. Before Jason could respond, the sound of shifting rubble caught their attention. General Zarkon's voice boomed from the other side of the debris field. Your Majesty, are you unharmed? We will extract you immediately. Queen Odin's gaze never left Jason's face as she called back. I am uninjured, General, but the human is with me. Do not attempt extraction until we can ensure his safety as well. Jason's eyebrows shot up in surprise. The Queen's mandibles twitched in what he thought might be the Deltan equivalent of a wry smile. It seems, Jason, she said softly, that we have much to discuss. As they settled in to wait for rescue, Jason couldn't help but wonder about Sarah's fate and the consequences of their actions. Little did he know that far from the stronghold, Sarah was already poring over the stolen data with Colonel Steele, unraveling secrets that would change the course of the human-Deltan conflict forever. As the dust settled around them, Jason and Queen Odin found themselves in a precarious situation. The collapse had cut them off from both human and Deltan forces, leaving them alone in the damaged stronghold. We need to find a way out, Jason said, carefully helping the Queen to her feet. Can you access any of the facility's systems from here? Queen Odin's antennae twitched as she focused on a nearby console. The main systems are offline, but I can access emergency protocols. There's a maintenance tunnel not far from here. They made their way through the debris-strewn corridor, the emergency lights casting an eerie glow on the alien architecture. As they rounded a corner, they encountered a collapsed section blocking their path. We'll have to find another route, Jason said, eyeing the rubble warily. Queen Odin nodded, her multifaceted eyes scanning their surroundings. There's an auxiliary passage through the lower levels. It's rarely used, but it should lead us to safety. As they descended deeper into the stronghold, the air grew thick with an unfamiliar scent. Jason's heart raced as they passed through a series of airlocks, each hiss of decontamination mist setting his nerves on edge. What is this place? He asked, noticing the increasing number of sophisticated-looking equipment lining the walls. Queen Odin's mandibles clicked softly. We're approaching a restricted research area. I've never actually been here myself. They entered a vast chamber filled with pulsating tubes and glowing consoles. Holographic displays flickered to life as they approached, revealing detailed anatomical diagrams of human bodies. "It's a lab," Jason breathed, his eyes widening as he took in the wealth of information surrounding them. "They've been studying us." Queen Odin moved to a central console, her slender fingers dancing across the interface. "This is Dr. Zandra's private research facility. She's been conducting extensive studies on human physiology and reproductive practices." Jason felt heat rise to his cheeks as he glanced at a particularly detailed hologram depicting human mating rituals. "I guess our typical greeting rituals weren't enough for her." The Queen's gaze lingered on the display, her antennae quivering with what Jason could only interpret as curiosity. "Your species' methods of reproduction are intriguing, so different from our own." As they explored the lab, Jason noticed Queen Odin's initial revulsion giving way to fascination. She pored over data files and simulations, her questions becoming increasingly detailed and personal. "This act you call kissing," she said, gesturing to a holographic replay of Jason and Sarah's intimate moment in the garden. "What purpose does it serve?" Jason cleared his throat, acutely aware of the Queen's intense gaze. It's a way of showing affection, of connecting with someone you care about." "Fascinating," Queen Odin murmured, her eyes never leaving the display. Suddenly, a distant explosion rocked the facility, reminding them of their precarious situation. As they prepared to leave, Jason accidentally brushed against a dormant console. The device hummed to life, bathing them in a soft, pulsating field of energy. "What's happening?" Jason gasped, his skin tingling with heightened sensitivity. Queen Odin's antennae vibrated rapidly. "It appears to be a sensory simulation device. It's designed to enhance physical and emotional responses for research purposes." As the energy field intensified, Jason became acutely aware of every sensation: the cool metal beneath his feet, the subtle movements of air currents, and most disturbingly, the Queen's alien presence beside him. Queen Odin seemed equally affected, her normally composed demeanor replaced by an almost frenetic energy. "Jason," she said, her voice taking on an unfamiliar tone, I'm experiencing unusual sensations. Is this how humans feel when they mate?" Before Jason could respond, the sound of approaching footsteps echoed through the corridor outside. General Zarkon's voice boomed, ordering his troops to search every room. "We need to move," Jason whispered urgently, fighting against the disorienting effects of the device. As they fled the lab, the lingering effects of the sensory enhancer made every touch, every accidental brush against each other, electrifying. Jason found himself hyper-aware of Queen Odin's alien beauty, while the Queen's gaze held a new, unsettling intensity. They navigated through a maze of corridors, narrowly avoiding detection by Zarkon's search parties. The Queen's knowledge of the facility proved invaluable, but Jason could sense her growing distraction. "Your species' method of reproduction?" Queen Odin said as they paused to catch their breath in a secluded alcove. "It involves direct physical contact, does it not?" Jason nodded, acutely aware of their close proximity in the small space. "Yes, it's a very intimate process." The Queen's hand tentatively reached out, her alien fingers brushing against Jason's arm. The touch sent a shiver through both of them, amplified by the lingering effects of the sensory device. "I've never understood the human obsession with physical contact," Queen Odin whispered, her voice filled with a mixture of confusion and curiosity. "But now I find myself intrigued." Before Jason could respond, the sound of approaching Deltan troops forced them to move once again. As they raced through the damaged stronghold, Jason's mind reeled with the implications of this unexpected development. Outside the facility, Sarah and Colonel Steele worked feverishly to analyze the stolen Deltan data. The revelation about the Deltans' limited reproductive cycle provided a glimmer of hope in humanity's fight against the alien invaders. "If we can disrupt their reproduction," Sarah said, her eyes gleaming with grit, "we might have a chance to turn the tide of this war." As the human resistance formulated their daring plan, Jason and Queen Odin continued their perilous journey through the heart of the Deltan stronghold. With each passing moment, the boundaries between their species blurred, challenging everything they thought they knew about each other. The stage was set for a confrontation that would test the limits of interspecies understanding and forever alter the course of the human-Deltan conflict. As Jason and Queen Odin navigated the labyrinthine corridors of the Deltan stronghold, the effects of the sensory device intensified. Queen Odin's antennae quivered uncontrollably, and her normally composed demeanor gave way to a frenetic energy. "Jason," she gasped, her voice trembling, "something's happening to me. These sensations, they're overwhelming." Jason noticed the queen's skin flushing a deeper shade of blue, her multifaceted eyes dilating. He reached out instinctively to steady her, and the moment their skin made contact, an electric current seemed to pass between them. Queen Odin let out a soft chirp, a sound Jason had never heard from a Deltan before. Her mandibles clicked rapidly as she leaned into his touch. "This feeling, is this what humans experience when they're aroused?" Before Jason could formulate a response, a familiar voice called out from behind them. "Your Majesty, Jason, thank the stars I found you." They turned to see Dr. Zandra emerging from a hidden passage, her antennae twitching with excitement and concern. "Dr. Zandra," Jason exclaimed, "what are you doing here?" The Deltan scientist's eyes darted between Jason and the Queen, taking in their proximity and Queen Odin's altered state. "I've been tracking you through the facility's biosensors. We don't have much time. The sensory device you encountered has triggered a rare physiological response in Her Majesty." Queen Odin's mandibles clicked questioningly. "What do you mean, Doctor?" Dr. Zandra's voice took on a clinical tone. "The device has temporarily altered your body chemistry, making it more compatible with human physiology. It's an unprecedented opportunity for research, but it's also potentially dangerous if not properly managed." As if to underscore the doctor's words, the sound of marching footsteps echoed through the corridor. General Zarkon's voice boomed, ordering his troops to search every room. "We need to move," Jason urged, gently guiding Queen Odin forward. The trio hurried through the winding passages, Dr. Zandra leading them towards a safer area of the stronghold. As they ran, Queen Odin found herself hyper-aware of Jason's presence, his human scent filling her senses in a way she had never experienced before. Suddenly, they rounded a corner and came face to face with a squad of Deltan guards loyal to General Zarkon. Without hesitation, Jason grabbed an energy pistol from a nearby weapons rack and pushed Queen Odin and Dr. Zandra behind him. "Stay back," he shouted, leveling the weapon at the approaching guards. The Deltan soldiers hesitated, clearly unprepared for a human wielding their technology with such confidence. Jason used their moment of confusion to his advantage, firing a series of precise shots that disabled their weapons and forced them to retreat. Queen Odin watched the display with a mixture of fear and fascination. The sight of Jason in action, defending her with such skill and drive, sent a surge of unfamiliar emotions coursing through her altered body. As the last of the guards disappeared around a corner, Jason turned back to his companions. "Are you both all right?" Queen Odin nodded, her eyes locked on Jason's face. "That was impressive. I've never seen a human handle Deltan weaponry so effectively." Dr. Zandra interjected, her voice urgent. "We need to keep moving. General Zarkon has likely activated the Stronghold's bio-tracking system. It won't be long before he pinpoints Your Majesty's location." As they continued their journey through the facility, Queen Odin found herself drawn closer to Jason, her body responding to his proximity in ways she had never experienced before. The lingering effects of the sensory device, combined with the adrenaline of their escape, created a potent cocktail of sensations. "Jason," she whispered during a brief moment of respite, "I find myself curious about human displays of affection. The way your kind touches each other, it's so different from our practices." Jason's eyes widened in surprise. "Well, there are many ways humans show affection. It depends on the relationship and the individuals involved." Queen Odin's antennae twitched with interest. "Could you demonstrate?" Before Jason could respond, Dr. Zandra interrupted. "Your Majesty, while this is fascinating from a research perspective, We must focus on reaching the communication center. It's our best chance to broadcast the truth about the occupation and potentially end this conflict. As they neared their destination, the effects of Sarah's mission became apparent. Deltan guards they encountered appeared disoriented and confused, their movements sluggish and uncoordinated. The human resistance must have deployed their chemical compound, Dr. Zandra observed. It's disrupting the Deltan neural pathways responsible for aggression and territorial behavior. They finally reached the communication center, only to find General Zarkon waiting for them, flanked by his most loyal troops. "So the traitors reveal themselves," Zarkon sneered, his mandibles clicking menacingly. "Your Majesty, step away from the human filth and reassert your dominance over our people, or I'll be forced to eliminate this infestation myself." Queen Odin straightened to her full height, her eyes blazing with a newfound intensity. She glanced at Jason, then back at Zarkon, making a decision that would alter the course of Deltan-human relations forever. Without warning, she turned to Jason, pulled him close, and pressed her mandibles against his lips in an approximation of a human kiss. The action sent shockwaves through her altered physiology, flooding her system with a rush of pleasurable sensations. Gasps of shock echoed through the room as Deltan observers watched their queen engage in such an alien act. General Zarkon stumbled backward, his face contorted in disgust and disbelief. As Queen Odin broke the kiss, she turned to face her people, her voice ringing out clear and strong. "My fellow Deltans, it's time we embraced a new understanding between our species. The humans are not our enemies, but potential allies in the vast expanse of the galaxy." Jason, still reeling from the unexpected kiss, moved to the communication console. With Dr. Zandra's guidance, he began broadcasting Queen Odin's message throughout the stronghold and to the human resistance forces outside. As the Queen's words spread, chaos erupted throughout the facility. Deltan soldiers, already affected by the human chemical compound, began laying down their weapons. Human resistance fighters, led by Sarah, pushed deeper into the stronghold, securing key positions. In the communications center, General Zarkon made a last, desperate lunge towards Queen Odin, his face twisted with rage. Jason intercepted him, using his newly acquired skills with Deltan technology to subdue the general with a well-placed shot from the energy pistol. As Zarkon collapsed to the ground, unconscious, Queen Odin placed a hand on Jason's shoulder. The touch sent another jolt of sensation through both of them, a reminder of the unprecedented connection they now shared. "What happens now?" Jason asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Queen Odin's multifaceted eyes sparkled with a mix of uncertainty and excitement. "Now, Jason, we forge a new path, one that unites our species rather than divides them." Dr. Zandra approached, her scientific curiosity evident in her rapid antennae movements. "Your Majesty, the physiological changes you're experiencing, they could be the key to a whole new era of Deltan-human relations. With your permission, I'd like to study this phenomenon further." As the sounds of celebration and confusion echoed through the stronghold, Jason, Queen Odin, and Dr. Zandra stood at the precipice of a new chapter in interspecies history. The consequences of their actions and the long-term effects of the human resistance's chemical compound remain to be seen. But for now, in this moment of hard-won peace, the possibility of a harmonious future between Deltans and humans seemed within reach. The moment of peace was shattered as General Zarkon, recovering from his initial shock, barked orders to his loyal guards. "Seize them! The Queen has been compromised!" Deltan soldiers surged forward, their movements erratic and uncoordinated. The human resistance's reproductive disruptor compound was taking effect, causing confusion among the ranks. Jason reacted swiftly, positioning himself between Queen Odin and the approaching guards. "Your Majesty, we need to move." Dr. Zandra's antennae twitched rapidly as she assessed the situation. "This way," she chirped, gesturing towards a hidden panel in the wall. "We can access the emergency broadcast system from the auxiliary control room." As they fled, Queen Odin felt a surge of unfamiliar sensations coursing through her body. The lingering effects of the sensory device, combined with the adrenaline of their escape, heightened her awareness of Jason's presence beside her. They reached the auxiliary control room, a compact space filled with blinking consoles and holographic displays. Dr. Zandra's fingers flew over the controls, bypassing security protocols with practiced ease. "Your Majesty," she said, turning to Queen Odin, "the broadcast system is ready. This is our chance to reach both Deltan and human populations simultaneously." Queen Odin stepped forward, her multifaceted eyes gleaming with tenacity. As she began to speak, her voice carried the weight of centuries of Deltan history, tinged with a new understanding of human emotion. "My fellow Deltans and to our human neighbors," she began, her words echoing throughout the stronghold and beyond. "Today marks a turning point in our shared history. The occupation built on misunderstanding and fear must end." As the Queen continued her impassioned speech, Sarah and her resistance team fought their way through the stronghold's winding corridors. They encountered pockets of resistance from loyal Deltan guards, but also found unexpected allies. A group of Deltan scientists, led by a young researcher named Vexilor, approached Sarah with raised hands. "We've heard the Queen's message," Vexilor chittered excitedly. "Dr. Zandra's research. It changes everything. We want to help." Sarah nodded, her tactical mind already formulating new strategies. "Can you guide us to the central control room?" Back in the auxiliary control room, Jason worked feverishly to maintain and strengthen the broadcast signal. His fingers danced across the alien interface, applying his rapidly expanding knowledge of Deltan technology. "General Zarkon is trying to cut us off," he called out, his brow furrowed in concentration. "I'm rerouting through secondary nodes, but he's persistent." Queen Odin paused her speech, turning to Jason with a look of concern and something deeper, more primal. The sight of him working so intently with Deltan technology sent a shiver of excitement through her altered physiology. "Jason," she said softly, placing a hand on his shoulder. The contact sent a jolt of electricity through both of them. "What you're doing, it's extraordinary." Their moment of connection was interrupted by Dr. Zandra's urgent voice. "Your Majesty, General Zarkon has activated a hidden weapon system. It's designed to target human populations with a sterilizing agent." Jason's eyes widened in horror. "We have to stop it!" They watched in dismay as Zarkon's erratic behavior, influenced by the reproductive disruptor compound, caused him to input incorrect targeting data. The biological weapon now posed a threat to both human and Deltan populations. "We need to get to the central control room," Dr. Zandra insisted. "It's the only place we can override the launch sequence." As they raced through the chaotic stronghold, Queen Odin found herself increasingly drawn to Jason. The combination of the sensory device's lingering effects and the high-stress situation amplified her newfound appreciation for human physicality. They encountered Sarah and her team at a junction, the human resistance fighters accompanied by their Deltan allies. Together, they fought their way to the central control room, battling both loyal guards and malfunctioning security systems. Upon reaching their destination, they found General Zarkon waiting for them. The Deltan military leader's eyes were wild, his movements jerky and unpredictable. He wielded an experimental energy weapon, its barrel glowing with scarcely controlled power. "Traitors," Zarkon snarled, his mandibles clicking furiously. "You would destroy everything we've built." He unleashed a barrage of energy blasts, forcing the group to take cover behind consoles and support pillars. The sensitive equipment in the control room sparked and sizzled under the assault. Jason, crouched behind a damaged console, studied the energy patterns of Zarkon's weapon. An idea formed in his mind, a dangerous gambit that could either save them all or doom both species. "Queen Odin," he called out, his voice barely audible over the chaos. "I need you to distract Zarkon. Can you do that?" The Queen's antenna quivered as she processed Jason's request. Without hesitation, she nodded, understanding flowing between them in a way that transcended words. Queen Odin stepped out from her cover, her regal bearing commanding attention even in the midst of battle. "General Zarkon," she said, her voice carrying a new timbre that sent shivers through the Deltan observers. "Your actions threaten not only the humans, but our own people as well." As Zarkon turned his attention to the Queen, Jason sprang into action. He rerouted power conduits, creating a feedback loop that would channel the energy from Zarkon's weapon directly into the biological launch system. The general, his mind clouded by xenophobia and the compound's effects, failed to notice Jason's movements. He leveled his weapon at Queen Odin, energy building to a crescendo. In that moment, Queen Odin made a decision that would forever alter the course of Deltan-human relations. She strode purposefully towards Jason, pulled him close, and engaged in a passionate, unmistakably human kiss. The act stunned everyone in the room, Deltan and human alike. General Zarkon's finger tightened on the trigger, unleashing a massive burst of energy, but Jason was ready. He activated his jury-rigged system, redirecting the blast into the launch controls. The biological weapon system overloaded in a spectacular display of arcing energy and exploding circuitry. Zarkon stumbled backward, his weapon falling from nerveless fingers. Sarah and Dr. Zandra seized the opportunity, moving swiftly to subdue the disoriented general. As the immediate threat passed, the group turned their attention to stabilizing the stronghold systems and assessing the damage. Queen Odin remained close to Jason, her body humming with newfound sensations and emotions. The events of the past few hours had irrevocably changed her perception of humans and the potential for intimacy between their species. As they worked to secure the control room and establish communication with both Deltan and human forces outside the stronghold, Queen Odin's mind raced with possibilities. A new era of human-Deltan relations was dawning, one that promised unprecedented cooperation and understanding. The Queen's gaze lingered on Jason, her antennae twitching with a mixture of curiosity and anticipation. The journey ahead would be challenging, but it held the promise of discoveries that neither species had ever imagined possible. As the chaos in the control room subsided, Queen Odin's antennae quivered with a mix of relief and anticipation. She stood close to Jason, their bodies still humming with the electric connection of their unexpected kiss. The air crackled with possibility as they surveyed the aftermath of their audacious attempt. "We need to secure the facility," Sarah said, her voice cutting through the stunned silence. She motioned to her team, who began to restrain the incapacitated General Zarkon and sweep the room for any remaining threats. Dr. Zandra's fingers flew over the control panels, her eyes darting between multiple holographic displays. "The weapon system has been completely neutralized," she reported, her antennae twitching with excitement. "But the compound, it's having an unexpected effect on our physiology." Queen Odin stepped forward, her multifaceted eyes scanning the data. "Explain, Doctor." "The reproductive disruptor compound, combined with the malfunctioning sensory device, is triggering cascading changes in Deltan biology," Dr. Zandra elaborated. It's making us more compatible with human physiology." Jason joined them at the console, his brow furrowed in concentration as he absorbed the alien data. "Is it dangerous?" Dr. Zandra shook her head. "Not dangerous, but transformative. We're experiencing heightened emotional responses, increased sensitivity to physical contact. It's fascinating." Queen Odin's gaze met Jason's, a spark of understanding passing between them. The Queen's mandibles clicked softly as she processed this information. "We must address our people," she declared, "both Deltan and human." With Dr. Zandra's assistance, they reactivated the stronghold's communication systems. Queen Odin's image was projected throughout the facility and broadcast to Deltan and human populations across the globe. "My fellow Deltans, and to our human neighbors," she began, her voice carrying a new depth of emotion. "The events of today have revealed a truth we can no longer ignore. Our two species are not meant to be enemies, but allies, partners, perhaps even more." As the Queen spoke, Jason worked alongside Dr. Zandra to stabilize the facility systems. His fingers moved with increasing confidence across the alien interfaces, each successful operation deepening his connection to the Deltan technology. Outside the control room, Sarah coordinated with the human resistance in the growing number of Deltan defectors. The effects of the compound were spreading rapidly, breaking down centuries of ingrained xenophobia and fear. In the days that followed, the stronghold became a hub of frenetic activity. Deltans and humans worked side by side, dismantling weapon systems and repurposing technology for peaceful applications. The air buzzed with a mixture of excitement and apprehension as both species navigated their rapidly evolving relationship. Queen Odin threw herself into the work of rebuilding, her every action now infused with a new understanding of human emotion. She found herself constantly aware of Jason's presence, her body reacting in ways she had never experienced before. One evening, as they pored over plans for a joint scientific initiative, Queen Odin's hand brushed against Jason's. The contact sent a jolt through both of them, causing them to lock eyes. "This is new," Jason said softly, his voice tinged with wonder. Queen Odin's antennae quivered. "Indeed, Dr. Zandra's research suggests these changes may be permanent. Our entire species is evolving, Jason. Because of you. Because of us." Their faces drew closer, the air between them charged with possibility. Just as their lips were about to meet, Dr. Zandra burst into the room, her antennae vibrating with excitement. "Your Majesty, Jason, you must see this." She activated a holographic display showing data from Deltan populations around the world. "The physiological changes are accelerating. We're seeing increased compatibility with Earth's environment, heightened emotional capacity, even changes in our reproductive cycles." Jason studied the data, his mind racing with the implications. This could solve the overpopulation issues that led to the invasion in the first place. Queen Odin nodded, her eyes shining with a mixture of hope and purpose. "We must seize this opportunity. It's time to end the occupation officially and begin a new era of cooperation." Over the next few weeks, Queen Odin worked tirelessly to reshape Deltan society. She issued decrees ending hostile actions against humans and established cultural exchange programs. Jason became a key figure in these initiatives, his unique understanding of both species making him an invaluable bridge between worlds. As Deltan and human societies began to integrate, new challenges and opportunities arose. Joint scientific ventures flourished, combining the best of both species' knowledge. Deltans, with their newly enhanced emotional capacity, found themselves drawn to human art and music. Humans, in turn, were fascinated by Deltan technology and philosophy. Sarah, who had initially watched Jason's deepening bond with Queen Odin with a mixture of concern and resignation, found herself drawn into this new world of possibilities. During a tense negotiation over the demilitarization of a Deltan outpost, she caught the eye of a young Deltan scientist named Kaztor. As they worked together to tenacity the conflict, Sarah found herself captivated by Kaztor's brilliant mind and his earnest desire to understand human culture. Their growing connection became a symbol of the new possibilities for human-Deltan partnerships, inspiring others to explore interspecies relationships. Months passed and the effects of the reproductive disruptor compound began to wane. However, the changes it had initiated in Deltan physiology persisted. Dr. Zandra's research revealed that exposure to human mating practices and emotional intimacy had triggered a permanent shift in Deltan biology. "It's remarkable," Dr. Zandra explained during a joint human-Deltan scientific conference. "Our physiology has adapted to make us more compatible with Earth's environment and human interaction. It's as if our species has been waiting for this catalyst to evolve." As the integration of their societies progressed, Queen Odin and Jason's relationship continued to deepen. Their public displays of affection, once shocking to Deltans, became a subject of fascination and inspiration for both species. One year after the events at the stronghold, Queen Odin and Jason stood on a balcony overlooking a bustling city where Deltans and humans now lived and worked side by side. The queen's once fearsome appearance had softened, her exoskeleton taking on a more iridescent quality that humans found beautiful. "Jason," Queen Odin said, her voice filled with emotion, "I never imagined that the terrifying human mating methods I once feared would lead to this. To us." Jason took her hand, marveling at how natural it felt now. "Neither did I, but I'm glad it did." As they gazed out at the thriving hybrid civilization they had helped create, Queen Odin's antennae twitched with a mixture of excitement and nervousness. "There's something I want to ask you, Jason. Something that will change everything once again." Jason turned to her, his heart racing with anticipation. What is it? Queen Odin's multifaceted eyes shimmered as she prepared to ask a question that would mark the beginning of yet another transformative chapter in the story of human-Deltan relations.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.